Welcome back. Goldman Sachs researchers are now warning that the next big move in the market may be down. And this is what we've been discussing on this channel as stocks and cryptos are reaching all-time record highs. Yet again, a lot more volatility in the markets. But there's also a lot happening in the markets. There's a lot happening in the macro sense. And we're going to be discussing all of it in today's video to understand where we are, what should we be doing, and what we need to prepare for. Because if you're bullish, you need to be prepared to do things in your portfolio for a bullish scenario. And if you're bearish, you need to do things in your portfolio as well. So, and by the way, sideways trading, same thing. So you always have to be in your portfolio and well aware of what is actually going on. And so just the other day, we reported that Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said that the U.S. was not going to be buying any more Bitcoin. And this kind of was counter to what many Bitcoin maximalists have been preaching for pretty much all year, that the U.S. would add crypto to their balance sheet. And he said no, but then started to backpedal a little bit, right? Treasury Secretary said on Fox and this past week in August that the U.S. government isn't going to buy more Bitcoin, but that doesn't mean that the plans are off the table to acquire more, he later clarified. And so, listen, I mean, at the end of the day, this is what the conversation has been. I don't think that they're going to be acquiring Bitcoin in any large sense of there's going to be just way too much opposition to it, and it's going to create too much issues at this point. I just don't think that it's a big priority, and I don't think that it really matters whether it's a priority or not. But it is a breakdown of this whole narrative that everyone's going to keep buying Bitcoin forever and everyone's going to keep taking out debt forever and keep buying more Bitcoin like MicroStrategy. And that's just not realistic, that will never correct, or things will change and maybe we'll go into a corrective phase or a bear market. Meanwhile, Coinbase Institutional posted this on X, which also makes me think, seems like another top indicator, because they don't post this in the bear markets. They said altcoin season is coming. As the September approaches, the transition to a full-scale altcoin season is likely. Our positive third quarter of 2025 outlook stems from the macro trends such as potential Fed rate cuts and expected regulatory advancements. But here's the deal, guys. These are all what ifs. And as I've been saying pretty much all year on this channel, we cannot base our portfolio completely on what ifs. I mean, obviously gambling is a what if. What if I win? What if I don't win? And the same thing is in investing, right? What if this company goes bankrupt, or what if this company grows to be the biggest company in the world? So there's the risk involved no matter what. But the fact that Coinbase is putting out a bullish statement on X, like we're the most bullish now, that there's probably going to be an altcoin season, it's like, wait, where were they in the bottom of the market saying we are now at the bottom of the market? FTX collapsed. They brought the whole market down with them, but this is the macro bottom. They didn't say any of that. And so to me, this is a top indicator. This is not a bottom indicator. This is not altcoin season is about to begin indicator. This is an indicator the cycle is over. And when I say the cycle is over, I literally mean the cycle is over. That doesn't mean that we can't go higher. I'm getting a lot of people who are misinterpreting what I'm saying in my thesis. My thesis has never changed in the fact that we can go much, much higher. Doubling, it seems like much, much higher, $250,000 Bitcoin, but it's not really. It's only double where we're at. And so doubling for the potential upside of doubling and saying, wow, I sold at 250,000 versus selling, I sold at 120 as an example, because this is where the liquidity is. The liquidity, we don't know where it's going to be at $250,000. We don't even know how long it's going to take to get there. It could take 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, 10 years. I don't know. And so there's just this kind of, I guess, hubris in the market that we're definitely going to $250,000, and it's worth the risk of losing all the gains. And I'm not just talking about Bitcoin. I'm talking about all the proxies to Bitcoin, like MicroStrategy, all the Bitcoin treasury companies, all the Bitcoin mining companies, and all of that. There is going to be a decoupling, and there is going to be a corrective phase. I don't think that we can go higher until we go lower. And so, yeah, maybe we'll go to 200,000, but we have to go lower first. And that could be very bullish in the short term for trades. But we really, again, we have to understand that Coinbase is posting we're bullish on altcoins. I don't know, to somebody who's been in the market for a while, this seems like a top indicator, along with all the other top indicators that we've seen in the market. But then people say, but Cryptoviser, they're going to start easing. They're going to cut Federal Reserve rates and all of this. And literally, the Coinbase post says potential Fed rate cuts. Everybody is anticipating the Federal Reserve cutting. Even if they cut, it's going to be like 0.25%. It's really not that much. Even if they do that twice, it's 0.5%, three times, 0.75%. They're not lowering interest rates significantly, I don't think. And I think it's setting up for the next Federal Reserve chairman, because the longer Powell kind of holds out, the more bullish it's going to be when a new Federal Reserve chairman goes in, because the likelihood they're going to significantly cut is much more than Jerome Powell cutting significantly. And that puts us into the middle of 2026. So in my view, yeah, the cycle's over, but that doesn't mean that there's not money to be made, because what happens after the cycle tops out? We drop back down, and then we have volatility, and then we go back up. So 1 year, approximately 1 year after the top of the market, you're at the bottom of the market. So when you're at the bottom of the market, what does that mean? The most bullish. When FTX collapsed, bottom of the market, that's right here. We were bullish on this channel. Every other YouTuber was freaking out saying, nope, Grayscale is next, Binance is next. They're all going down because FTX went down. And on this channel, we were like, nope, FTX, this is the bottom, buy. And we were buying the entire month that this was down. And so again, trying to understand where we are in the cycle. We may not get it to the day, even to the month or the week, but in a range, it's important, because yes, there is a lot that is saying that the Federal Reserve may cut, may add quantitative easing, because this user on X posted this saying the Federal Reserve reverse repo reaches its lowest level in more than 4 years. Do you know what happens next? Well, if it's a reverse repo, then it becomes a repo. And a reverse repo is sucking liquidity out of the market. Repos are adding liquidity to the market. So they've been sucking liquidity out of the market for the past couple of years, substantially. When this ends, what is probably going to occur? Money printing. We know that. If we look at the US debt clock, we know the money printing is going to just accelerate. We're not there just yet. And I don't know when it's going to be, right? The Federal Reserve this can take years. Hopefully it doesn't. And this is why the president is pushing kind of like get the rate cuts, now. Meanwhile, Goldman Sachs researchers are warning of an unfriendly asymmetry and why the next big move in the market may be down. And by the way, if you like these kind of discussions, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We upload every single day of the year to bring you the latest happening in the financial world completely for free here on YouTube. All you got to do is give the video a free thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button. If you want to become a channel member, click the join or subscribe plus button down below. So Goldman Sachs recognizes main drivers behind the current rally. In a note published, Goldman researchers cite a strong U.S. corporate earnings season boosted by AI capital expenditure. Pay attention to that. We're going to come back to the AI thing in just a minute. There's been further compression of the risk premium. They talk about some of the volatility, but now Goldman team is wary, noting that compared to previous periods of low volatility, there is a less friendly asymmetry to the stock market. They said the risk of a large rally is comparably low, as is in common in low volume regimes, because the largest rallies tend to occur during recoveries. But the equity drawdown probability is elevated and has increased recently. As I've explained, when everybody's bullish, that's the time to be bearish. And I'm not the one who's just saying this. The billionaires have been selling their Bitcoin for the past 2 years. The Ethereum billionaires and whales have been selling their Ethereum the past couple of months. They're all offloading. Why? Because this is the liquidity, high volume. As soon as that volume stops, the price is just going to crater. And that's on top of other macroeconomic conditions or the cycle ending. And it's going to continue. That is why when we're looking at the previous Bitcoin halvings, when we're looking at the psychological chart, we have to understand where we are. The road up is a nice kind of climb, right? You can kind of climb it. It's not just so steep. But on the way down, it's very steep, right? Way up is over the more of a period of time than the way down. You guys can clearly see that on the psychological market charts right here on the screen. And so we have to understand where we are. Banks like Citigroup are weighing in stablecoin and crypto ETF custody services. Now, if you've been watching my channel for any length of time, you are no newbie to how Citibank is involved in blockchain and crypto and AI. I posted this video just a few months ago. Just go to my channel and type this in, or just type in on YouTube, the Cryptoviser ICP Citibank, and you'll see this video called Citibank Eyes ICP. And in that video, we theorized that Citibank was monitoring what blockchain and AI capabilities are being rolled out so they can invest appropriately where they see fit. Got a lot of criticism on the video. Cryptoviser, there's no way Citibank is involved, no way. And meanwhile, Citibank seems to be heavily involved in crypto, heavily involved in blockchain and AI, and they're continuing to expand. Now, the Citigroup is exploring the launch of custody payments and conversion services for stablecoins and crypto ETFs, including Bitcoin ETFs, according to Reuters. The proposal would let the bank safeguard the digital assets underlying ETFs, settle transactions, and facilitate instant stablecoin payments for clients. Their initial focus is on holding the high-quality reserves that back regulated stablecoins, aligning with internal risk standards. Well. Clearly, the banks are getting in line to integrate crypto, blockchain, stablecoins, and this whole new payment network that is being rolled out globally right now with crypto being integrated into TradFi. It's happening. And the point is, this is only going to accelerate, but the acceleration rate that most like newbies in the market are pushing, and the social sentiment on social media is very like, oh, this is going to happen tomorrow. They're going to integrate it tomorrow. It's like, no. This is going to take quite a bit of time. And so when you start to see these signals, these signs that the banks are going to integrate into TradFi with DeFi, this is very bullish, but it's not bullish now. It's bullish for the next cycle, because what they're telling us is this is what they're about to start rolling out. And so by the time the rollout goes and they can start saying, hey, this is how many customers are using this service, this is how much our assets under management, they could say now we're up 2, 3, 4, 500%. This is going to be very difficult for them to do this in a downtrending market, especially when people start to lose their ass in the market, because it's not just going to be crypto. It's going to be a macro event, right? Because the markets are still coupled and correlated to each other. So when there is a drop, everything's going to drop at the same time. I mean, there is significant overvaluation in the traditional stock market right now, and there is a strategic fight right now amongst these companies to gain AI exposure. And we're about to get to that in just a minute. But before we go there, Marty Party posted this, and I think that this is important to understand as well. It says, to be clear, when interest rates drop, Circle and Tether will lose a lot of revenue. Remember, they hold interest-bearing treasuries. When interest rates drop, they'll need to issue more stablecoins to maintain their current revenue, which equates to their valuation. This is probably why they decided to launch their own chain to generate revenue, because rate cuts are starting in September. This is according to Marty Party. I don't necessarily know just yet whether they're going to cut rates or not, but it doesn't matter. Even if they cut rates, as we discussed, the market has already priced in a 0.25% cut, maybe even 0.5% cut. That's not really going to do anything, in my view. We may get the final kind of pump in the market. That may be what people are expecting the blow off top to be. But before we get there, we have to come down a little bit. And I think that this may impact the downtrend in cryptos, because remember, a lot of people are utilizing stable coins right now and putting their money in stable coins right now because you can earn yield or rewards or interest, whatever you want to call it. Number one, if that stops or it slows down or it's lower and people go into risk off, right? They're like, risk on. They're like, wait, I'm not making any money holding my dollars. Okay, boom, I'm going to spend it. And then these start spending their money. Or buying other assets. This drives the price of cryptos or stocks or golds or metals higher, because people want to park their money in something that's going to appreciate more than, if you're making like 5% in or 4% with USDC or Tether, people are okay with that. If you're earning like 1 or 2%, it's probably better just to put in the stock market. And so we have to understand like where we are in the cycle. All these companies are making money. Tether and Circle are making money. Circle, their IPO went from $30 to $300, and now it's at about 150. But it's coming down much further than that because this is all being done in the bull market when there is liquidity, when volume is very high, people are very bullish. Newbies are coming in and putting their money in, throwing their money like they're a genius, saying, "Oh my God, I invested in MicroStrategy. It's the best company in the world," not realizing they're paying $1.60 for $1 worth of Bitcoin in MicroStrategy. And that brings us to Bitcoin mining firms and AI firms competing for cheap, sustainable energy. Now, if you've been watching my videos for any length of time, you know that I have been saying for years now, the Bitcoin mining companies, these are a very good play in my view. But what happened in the previous cycle was the Bitcoin mining companies, they were all prepaying for, pre-ordering brand new Bitcoin mining machines in 2021 that were going to be delivered in 2022. They weren't even produced yet. And so they were buying at the top of the market. And then what happened? By the time they got these delivered, we were in a bear market, right? Pretty much at the record lows or the cycle lows, I should say. Gas and oil prices went up. So energy went up to run these machines. And they lost like half their value just because they were no longer in demand. And so a lot of these Bitcoin mining companies went bankrupt. But what we started to see during this cycle was a lot of these Bitcoin mining companies started to pivot to AI. Not all of them, and still there's a huge cohort of some of the large Bitcoin mining companies that have not pivoted to AI. And that is not good. Because the thing is, with Bitcoin mining and even AI, you have to constantly upgrade your equipment because they get more efficient, use less energy. And if you're not upgrading your equipment, you are less likely to earn those rewards or be able to sustain whatever you're doing for either the Bitcoin mining network or for AI, compute. So it's very expensive, and you can't have these like bear markets like Bitcoin has. And so these Bitcoin mining companies, they need to be able to figure out ways to continue to make money even in a bear market. And so AI obviously seems to be the good pivot because they can pivot back and forth, whatever's more profitable at the time. And that is also better for Bitcoin network and AI as a network because it creates competition, not only between individual companies mining, but also for the power for the actual compute or mining or bandwidth, whatever you want to call it. So this is very interesting to see that Bitcoin mining companies are pivoting. Some of them are pivoting pretty substantially, like we're going to get into, and some of them are not doing anything. We've talked about Bitfarms quite a bit. Bitfarms nobody pays attention to because the stock is not moving. Guys, TeraWulf, okay, which I've covered extensively on this channel, just signed a deal with Google. And Google now owns 8%, I think, or 7% of TeraWulf. And they're one of the largest Bitcoin miners. And now they're pivoting into AI. Huge, huge opportunity here. We've been talking about this for years on my channel, guys, right? We were buying in the dollar range, $1, $2. And now we're at almost $9 and probably going much. I mean, they signed a deal with Google. You guys understand? Like, it's no longer just about Bitcoin mining. Now Google owns a Bitcoin mining company, but they own it for the AI capabilities. But now Google owns a Bitcoin miner. Nobody's talking about it. Even the Bitcoin maximalists, they wanted Google to buy Bitcoin. Google doesn't need to buy Bitcoin. They now own 8% of a Bitcoin miner. This is huge. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody cares, right? But guys, there's going to be a lot of opportunity because a lot of people who are going to start losing money in those MicroStrategy trades or the Bitcoin trades or doubling down on PP coin and other meme coins, they're going to start looking and saying, wait, how did I miss the Bitcoin mining industry? How did I miss the AI industry? And they're going to start putting their money in at these like multi-year highs. I mean, that's just the way the market's going to work. I think that this is the alt season. I don't necessarily know that we're going to see altcoins moving because there's still not a lot, like Wall Street money hasn't moved into altcoins. Maybe a little bit of Ethereum, but it's not the same as all of Wall Street can buy TerraWolf. So this, you're talking about like literally trillions of dollars of potential inflows. Where with cryptos, specifically the altcoins, they have much less potential inflows. And so I don't know that we're going to have an alt season because we don't need an alt season. The Bitcoin mining companies are the alt season. The Ethereum treasury companies are the alt season. The Bitcoin treasury companies, they are the alt season. And some of them are coming to an end and some of them are about to begin, like the Ethereum ETF inflows crushed Bitcoin with almost $3 billion. And this is going to continue for a little bit of time. How long? I don't know. Is it going to push the price up? Potentially, but potentially not, because these are all private sales. I don't know. You guys also have to remember there's, I think, 6 times the supply of Ethereum there is of Bitcoin. So it's still scarce, but it's less scarce than Bitcoin. And so that may create more of a hurdle to get past these sell walls that potentially are going to be hit on the way up. But that doesn't mean that we're not getting quite a few interesting Ethereum price predictions like 7,500, 15,000, 50,000, and so on. Meanwhile, again, going back to what the alt season is, it's these treasury companies. NASDAQ listed Bit Digital reported Q2 revenue drop amid a pivot to Ethereum treasury strategy. Right now, I don't think it matters whether they're making money or not making money, like in actuality making money or just like paper money. But eventually, these Ethereum treasury companies, they are going to actually have cash flow in the form of staking rewards, which you do not have in the Bitcoin treasury world. And so when you think about it, just from the very basic level of these Ethereum treasury companies just basically started, you're literally at the very, very early stage. And so there's probably going to be a lot of companies that start to say, wait, they're earning money in Ethereum, but we're not earning money in Bitcoin. So what is the benefit to holding MicroStrategy versus holding Bitmine or SharpLink? And I'm just talking about strictly from a cash flow perspective. Now, we don't know what they're going to do with the cash flow. Maybe they're just going to buy more Ethereum. I think a smart idea would be to give a dividend to, even if it's half. So you take half of the rewards, buy more Ethereum, half is a dividend to the shareholders. I think the inflows will keep coming to these companies. But when we're talking specifically about Bit Digital, I want to direct your attention to this. This is part of their investor presentation that they had as part of their their call about their earnings and kind of what they're going to be doing with Ethereum. And I thought it was really interesting that we should go over it together here. So that's what we're going to do. By the way, don't forget to give this video a free thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed. That way you never miss a new video that we upload every single day. Now, what you can see on these slides is that they're going to go all in on their strategy for the future of finance. So you can see from the end of last year, they had 27,000 Ethereum, and now they have 121,000 Ethereum. So they basically 5x'd their holdings for Ethereum. They say, we've transformed our treasury, accumulating over 120,000 Ethereum to become one of the largest corporate ETH treasuries globally. Our mission is to lead as the preeminent Ethereum treasury platform, driving value through innovation and strategic growth. And by the way, this is a $3 stock. Okay, this is why I'm going over it, because people always ask, Cryptoviser, we need signals. Like what should we look into for our portfolios? I mean, when you talk about like only investing where you could afford to lose, and people are talking about MicroStrategy when MicroStrategy is trading at a very high premium, has a pocket of air and hasn't bought any Bitcoin in a while, and has 5 debt facility products that are paying 10% dividends a year, cumulative, whether they can pay it or not. So, I mean, people are buying right now MicroStrategy, and the most bullish they've ever been, and it's $360 and going much, 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 much lower. Meanwhile, Ethereum's company that literally transitioned from a Bitcoin mining company all the way to Ethereum treasury and Ethereum staking, it's a $3 stock, under $1 billion. That's why I'm talking about it, because it's $3, right? I would rather put my money in this and lose it all than put my money in MicroStrategy and lose it all. Because when I'm looking at, based on when I'm recording this video, when I'm looking at the risk reward factors here, it's much higher, the upside for Bit Digital potential, than MicroStrategy at where we are in the cycle, where MicroStrategy is in their strategy, where Bit Digital is in the strategy. I mean, Bit Digital is literally at the beginning. Nobody's talking about it. Everyone's still talking about MicroStrategy. Everyone's still talking about, which altcoin is going to go up. And I'm like, you guys are missing the freaking point. Altcoins may not go up. Nobody's paying attention to altcoins. There are trillions and trillions of dollars traded in the stock market every single day. Crypto, maybe there's trillions, but it's a much smaller group of money. This is an opportunity, in my view. And potentially this opportunity is better than altcoins. Maybe not, but that's for you to kind of make a decision for your own portfolio. For me, at this point in time, I don't know whether altcoins are going to perform or not. What I do know is that Bit Digital is going to continue to buy more Ethereum. They're going to continue to stake Ethereum. They're probably involved in AI. And they're probably going to get a lot of heavy investments from BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, and all the other major hedge funds. And the hedge funds are not buying altcoins. No matter what the maximalists are telling you, no matter how many XRP ETFs are approved, it's not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough. You have multiple companies literally competing to buy as much Ethereum as possible right now and stake it and earn rewards and potentially either give a dividend or buy more Ethereum with it, take on more debt, more Ethereum. But you're bullish on Pipi coin and Shiba Inu coin. Doesn't make sense. But again, where we are in the cycle, we are at the top. So everybody thinks like, oh no, my coin has to pump. It has to. Last cycle it did. It has to. This cycle. It's like, no, it doesn't. It literally doesn't. Anyway, moving on. In their presentation, so they talk about opportunistic ETH acquisitions are powering their MNAV growth, strategically building the world's leading Ethereum strategy. So they talk about why they're accumulating Ethereum. I think we kind of understand unique technical value. Staking generates passive income, about 3.2%, which is 3.2% more than MicroStrategy is making, right? Most active developer ecosystem, second largest digital asset, basis for about 50% of stablecoins, and a deflationary supply. Then they talk about their team. They have Brock Pierce on their team, which, I mean, a lot of crypto experience. They have this guy from DYDX Exchange. And so the other big thing, and I think that a lot of people are missing this with Bit Digital, is it's not only that they're getting involved in AI, they literally just created another company called White Fiber that Bit Digital owns 74% of the ownership. So Bit Digital owns 74% ownership in a newly stock traded AI infrastructure company called White Fiber. It says the future of AI compute. Today, we're unveiling White Fiber, the next generation GPU cloud computing service from Bit Digital, built to redefine what high performance AI infrastructure should be. So I had somebody say, well, Cryptoviser, are you bullish on White Fiber? And I said, I don't know. I'm bullish on Bit Digital though. Like personally, I trust the team at Bit Digital that they know what the hell they're doing, that White Fiber is probably a good investment also, but I have not done a lot of research on it. But again, I would prefer to hold Bit Digital because they own 74% of Wi-Fi, so of White Fiber. So why would I want to hold Bit Digital and White Fiber? I'm just going to hold Bit Digital because they own White Fiber. And so if White Fiber does good, Bit Digital does good. And so now Bit Digital is an Ethereum treasury company. They own 75% of a publicly traded AI infrastructure company. They have proven company leadership. I would agree with that. They've been staking Ethereum since 2022. And this is their plan. This is their roadmap. So step one was to convert their Bitcoin into Ethereum. Done. Step 2 was to simplify the corporate structure by spinning off high performance compute subsidiary, White Fiber. Done. Now they're in step 3, which is exiting their Bitcoin mining operations. Now, I've been reading a lot of SEC filings recently. Bitfarms, they have Bitcoin miners up for sale. BitDigital, they have Bitcoin miners up for sale. Nobody wants Bitcoin miners anymore. That is also a signal we're at the top of the market, or we're potentially already in the downtrend of the market. What we're seeing is just the end volatility. They're all trying to get rid of these Bitcoin mining machines. And granted, some of the other Bitcoin mining companies will probably buy them up. But by the time they buy it up, they already have a new machine that's better. And so those machines lose their value. I mean, in my view, again, do I hold Marathon Digital that holds 50,000 Bitcoin with debt and through these kind of preferred offerings like MicroStrategy was doing, and is basically Marathon Digital? They have some AI, but basically they're a Bitcoin mining company. Or do I invest in BitDigital? I mean, that's the question in this video, in this part of the video, right? And I mean, to me, it seems like they're moving very rapidly and they're only going to get more investment in the space. Now, obviously, we have to pay attention to stock selling shares on the open market to raise more money, because that dilutes other shareholders like you and I. But it's something to think about. And step 4, which they're going to achieve, is 100% Ethereum accumulation strategy. And so this is the valuation of BitDigital currently, right? I just showed you their market cap, just under $1 billion. And according to their investor presentation, they currently hold about $511 million worth of Ethereum, and they hold about $468 million worth of White Fiber, their AI subsidiary, meaning their actual MNAV is either on par or at a discount. According to August 13th, when this presentation was made, they're actually at a 2% discount, meaning if you're buying the stock, you're actually getting a little bit more in valuation. Now, that's something to keep in mind, because this is different than these other Ethereum strategy companies like Bitmine Treasury and Bitmine Immersion Tech and SharpLink, because SharpLink and Bitmine Immersion Technology, these are just Ethereum holding companies, really. And so that means that they're only really making money on what, or I should say, they're only being valued on what crypto they hold. And so their MNAVs are very high, meaning you're paying $1.82, approximately $1.82, give or take, for $1 worth of crypto in buying the share. And that's not, according to this presentation, what you're getting with BitDigital. You're getting exactly the value that the stock is. So it's not trading at a premium, which is good because the downside risk is less. And I think that it's a true valuation of where the company is. I would actually probably say that White Fiber is probably worth a little bit more than what they're valuing it at, just because it is an AI infrastructure play with a Bitcoin or Ethereum mining company backing it. That's pretty big. And so again, there is a lot of opportunity in these markets, whether we're going up in the market, whether we're going down in the market, but you have to prepare. There's a lot of people in this market that are all in right now that have no plan, no strategy for taking profits out of the market. And therefore, they're not going to take profits out of the market. And we're going to be here next year and much lower prices in the market. And they're going to still be in their positions. But this time, they're going to be in the red and not in the green. And they're going to be like, well, Cryptoviser, you should have told us that we were at the top. It's like, I don't know how much clearer I can be that I believe that we are at the top of the market, right? And at the end of the day, investing is an individual thing, right? Whether I buy or sell my crypto, no, honestly, it's none of your business, number one. Number two, it shouldn't affect you, right? People are saying in the comments, Cryptoviser, you sold too soon. I'm like, maybe I did. Oh, well, it is what it is. This is my strategy and my thesis. And the difference between myself as an investor and a lot of investors out there is I don't look back at a trade and say, damn, I could have done this. I could have done this. Every trade, once you close it, you move on. Because otherwise, you're never going to sell. And then what is the point of buying in the first place? Point of buying so that the price goes up, not so it goes down. AKA TerraWolf, AKA Core Scientific, AKA Bitcoin. These have all reached and performed. And we're still talking about whether Shiba Inu or Dogecoin are going to perform this cycle. People are still saying XRP is going to start its bull run. I'm like, XRP already did its bull run, right? We went from 30 cents to $3. That's 10x. Yeah, but Cryptoviser in the last cycle, it would have went 100x. So we should be there this cycle. It's like, okay, but that was last cycle and this is this cycle. Like, what do you think the market is doing? Just catering to what you want and to make you rich? No, this is how people get wrecked in the market. And I'm trying to be as transparent as possible with my investment strategy and thesis and kind of how I'm breaking down for you guys, the way that I view this market and these signals in the market of, the banks are getting involved, right? It's going to take time, but they're getting involved. Interest rates, yeah, if they come down, it could be good, but it could also be bad because the stable coins, people are going to be pulling their money out of stable coins and they're going to be putting it into crypto. And then crypto goes up and now nobody has any more money. So then people start selling. And when people start selling, what happens? Prices drop, which by the way, they already are. And so that brings us to MicroStrategy because I keep talking about it because this is the signal for the market. Okay. When MicroStrategy starts to drop, and it has already, but nobody's really noticing. People are like, oh, it's just taking a little breather to $360. It's like, yeah, but what I've been saying on this channel is the $400 level cannot be breached again, right? Every time we hit $400, we come right back down. Like we cannot break through 400. And part of the reason is MicroStrategy's fault. They've tapped themselves out. There's no more ability to sell shares on the open market. Bitcoin price potentially, according to my thesis, has already topped out. And so the upside potential is no longer there. There's less interest in buying MicroStrategy. Granted, BlackRock, State Street, some of the big hedge funds, they're probably buying MicroStrategy, but they don't care where the price is. So they're just buying. One lump sum, that's it, move on. And so once the price starts falling and Bitcoin is not moving higher and a lot of money is moving into other assets like Ethereum and Ethereum treasury companies, and they can't really raise that much more money from their debt products like Stride, Stretch, Strike, Stride, all these other things, what happens? The price will start to compress the MNAV, which we've already seen just a month ago, 1 month ago. The MNAV was like 1.9, meaning you're paying $1.90 for $1 worth of crypto in the MicroStrategy share. Now it's compressed down to 160, and it's going to compress to 1, potentially going under 1. If it goes under 1, it'll be a little bit bullish, but we have a long way to go to get to there. But this is the indicator, because when this starts falling, the Bitcoin narrative for the cycle is over, done, complete. Because guys, what has driven the Bitcoin price movement, the Bitcoin narrative, the Bitcoin hype? It's been the Bitcoin ETFs and MicroStrategy and these other Bitcoin treasury companies. But if MicroStrategy can't raise money, they cannot raise money, right? So the whole narrative starts to collapse. And by the way, it's underway right now. People are going to say, but Cryptoviser, when is this going to happen? No, it's happening. You're in it. You're in the decline. You're in the reversal. You're in the correction. But what's going to happen is you're going to have people, like we said earlier in the video, with a lot of hubris that come in and say, well, maybe we'll go back up to 400, right? And they'll say, you see, Cryptoviser is an idiot. He was wrong. We're going much higher. We're going to 1,000. We're going to split the stock, and we're going to be back at 100, and I'm going to have 10 times the number of stock. But that's not what's going to happen. They're going to keep buying, thinking that's going to happen, and we're going to keep falling. The fall, guys, no support. Look, top at the beginning of the year, end of last year, 2024, have not been able to reclaim that. Will we? Potentially. But I even showed you guys a chart. If you just look 1 year, if you think 1 year from the top is we're going to hit the bottom, if last year was the top, that means this year is going to be the bottom. And so if this was the top and we invert it, this is the decline we're going to see from here down to here if you turn it upside down. Now, a lot of people think that that's going to be ridiculous and that can't happen. But my thesis, forget about looking at the chart upside down or whatever. The thesis is that this MNAV is going to compress instantly. And so if you do the math on that, I don't even know how to do the reverse math on that. Let's just say 200 times 1.6. Yeah, so it's about 225 times 1.6. Yeah. So basically, for us to be at 1, the price right now should be $225, right? And we are much higher than $225. We are $135 just to get to 1 MNAV. That's like a 30% drop in the price just to get to MNAV. And if the price of Bitcoin comes down and the MNAV compresses, 225 is going to turn into potentially $100. So all of these MicroStrategy bulls are going to have a 75% drop in the price. And they're going to look around and say, how did that happen? How did I lose my money? Not understanding the MNAV, the tokenomics of the stock. And so this is going to happen. I personally believe it's underway right now. I think it's happening. I think that MicroStrategy is structurally breaking down. And I don't think that we can go much higher. Maybe we will. But even if Bitcoin price goes up and this MicroStrategy stock price stays the same, that's another way to compress the MNAV. So either way, the MicroStrategy holders lose. Because if Bitcoin goes up, it's not going to go up at the same pace because of the MNAV compression. If Bitcoin goes down, the price is going to go down even further because of the MNAV compression. I think it's underway. I mean, no support. All year, there's no support. And so, yeah, I think the breakdown is underway. We'll have to wait and see about that. But this is the indicator for the rest of the market, because the rest of the market is looking at Ethereum right now. The rest of the market is waiting for their altcoin bags to pump. Meanwhile, the Bitcoin narrative is breaking down. And potentially, the Bitcoin narrative breaking down will bring down the rest of the market. And then potentially, that's when you'll start to see the recovery in altcoins before Bitcoin. There's so many different scenarios that could potentially occur, but there's also a lot of different things at play because the macroeconomics look kind of shaky. Federal Reserve quantitative easing or tightening looks kind of shaky. And even geopolitical conflict looks kind of shaky, and that could all have impacts on the market. So anyway, I want to know what you guys think. Let me know down below in the comments of the video. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. I'll see you when I see you. Crypto on.